Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Olympiacos, Real Madrid, Game 3 of the Euroleague Playoffs has just ended. Unfortunately, Olympiacos could not finish the job tonight and move on to the Final Four. We've got Game 4 in Madrid on Thursday. And here to digest the game, I've got Ioannis with me. We're just going to chat about what we saw tonight and why we're positive about Game 4 and the series as a whole. First of all, Ioanni, thoughts on the game today? Obviously, we lost by 8. How did you see it?
And actually, first of all, we didn't lose by 8 necessarily. I'd say it was, it was one of those games that was, 8 is a bit not necessarily accurate because there was a lot of free throws back and forth at the end. I think it was one of those games that was judged on a couple of possessions. I think overall our defense was really good, as it has been this whole series. I mean, we kept Madrid to effectively, mid-70s for most of the game if you don't count the free throws. So I think that was good. I think the big problem today was our offense. More specifically, I think we needed more production from a number of our guards. I know Goss had a big game, but we needed McKissic to score a little more. We probably needed to get a little bit more out of Vildoza as well, and obviously Walkup, even though I know he's coming back from injury. Obviously, Vezenkov had a great game, so that was positive. But what I take away from this game is that I think number one is the team showed a lot of character coming back into the game twice, which I think, it's very easy when you're 2-0 up and you're sort of down 10 points with 4 minutes to go to sort of throw the white towel in and wait for the next game. But I think the team made a strong comeback towards the end, which I think is positive. And I think, the other thing is that Madrid expended a lot of energy to sort of stay up towards the end of that game and to win that game. So I think they're going to be pretty spent by Game 4, which I think is going to be a game that we'll win pretty handily myself.
Two things I wanted to touch on that. First thing would be, but you're saying that Madrid spent a lot of energy at the end, but he won the game. Chus Mateo won the game with his second string players in the fourth quarter. For the most part of the fourth quarter, he was resting Hezonja, Campazzo, and Tavares. I think the five that played the majority of that were actually bench players. So that's my first question. Do you think that still applies, that they are going to be mentally and physically more tired than we are? And the second point is, yes, you said that we sort of came back into the game twice, and especially in the last couple of minutes in the fourth quarter when you're down 10, but still managing to come back. That shows character. But isn't the fact that we sort of lost it at the end when we could have won it, a turnover here, a made basket over there, a free throw there, does that not worry you at all, that we could have won it and we didn't? We've let them live, and it's Real Madrid. Like, we all know what they can do. They are the most successful team in Europe for a reason, and the way they get things done is it's witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the fatigue issue, I think ultimately, no matter who's on the floor, those players matter. Feliz matters because he's Campazzo's main backup, right? Garuba, all these players, they matter because Real doesn't have a very deep roster. So ultimately, really pushing for that comeback and playing the kind of aggressive defense they did for the entirety of that fourth quarter, and honestly, even in the third quarter as well. That's hard to do as a basketball team, and it's the type of thing that shows. Like, you see teams that make big comebacks on Game 1. In Game 2, they don't have the energy for it, and you see them down double digits. So I do think it's still gonna play somewhat of a role. And as far as being worried, look, I'm not that worried. I think we need to be careful here as Olympiacos basketball fans, because we've been sort of very hurt over the last, I would say, 3-4 years. Buzzer beaters here and there, losses here and there. Our biggest rivals winning last year. I think that has just led to this huge ball of pressure on all of our shoulders, and including the teams as well. And so I think we have a tendency to catastrophize every situation. You saw it with Bartzokas getting into a verbal argument with a fan on one of the last days of the season. Like, the fact of the matter is, we finished the EuroLeague in top position. We beat Real Madrid twice at home, and we have now 2 more chances to beat them to qualify for the Final Four. Those are the facts. Yes, we dropped a game on the road, but every team can drop games. A lot of teams drop games in the playoffs. Not everything is a sweep. I mean, you look at, Real Madrid, the year they beat us, I think they were 2-0 down in the playoffs, and they came back to 3-2 against Partizan, and then they won the EuroLeague. You look at Panathinaikos last year, they dropped game one at home. You think, okay, well, if you drop game one at home, then you have to go on the road and win. And they did that, right? So just because we lost one game on the road against a team with their backs against the wall, do or die, that doesn't scare me too much. And I think we're letting our fear and pressure and past experience kind of bleed into the way that we're viewing this series. People aren't happy. We beat Madrid last week and people weren't happy with the way we beat Madrid. We beat all these teams throughout the regular season. People were still not necessarily happy with the way we were playing. Ultimately, though, we finished first. We beat Madrid in the first two games. It is what it is. Right now, we have two chances to go to the Final Four. They're up with their backs against the wall. I'm very confident. And I think it's a fallacy to look at past years and sort of project the fear from those years onto this team, because that just leads to pressure on everyone's shoulders. And it leads to mistakes, it leads to turnovers, it leads to a lot of things on the floor that we don't necessarily want to see. So the fans just need to get behind the team. Things happen, you lose games, you can't win every game. It's just the way it is, really.
That's something that I don't think is just an Olympiacos trait. Unfortunately, that's a Greek people trait. When it comes down to sport, we tend to sort of exaggerate everything and catastrophize everything and see, unfortunately, the worst in the teams that we support. Right, with that in mind, then, what do we need to do on Thursday to win the game? Because for me, the big difference, I know that I haven't seen any of the three games from start to finish. I've watched bits of all three games. Today was the game that I've watched the most because I watched it from the second quarter, from parts of the second quarter onwards. And the big difference for me today compared to the other games was Madrid's defense. It was clear they were playing as if someone had a gun to their heads. It was do or die, as you said. It's the most intense game of basketball I've seen them play in a very long time. It was brilliant defense. It was like watching in the mirror. This is the sort of defense that Olympiacos plays. They were very, very physical. They were very intense. They were chasing us everywhere. They were like a pack of dogs. And okay, you're saying that maybe on Thursday they won't have that intensity because it was physically and mentally so draining for them to do it today for such large parts of the game. Now, what can we do to make sure that A, if they do that, we break it, and B, everything that we did in game 1 and 2 correctly, we still managed to do away in Spain on Thursday?
I think it's a couple things. I think in this game, what happened was, especially from the third quarter onwards, is just offensively wise, we were kind of one-dimensional in our offense. And by that, I mean, we were looking for this one specific action, which was we were essentially trying to force a switch onto Vezenkov and then feed Vezenkov in the post every single time because they were switching on off-ball screens. So what was happening was you would have an off-ball screen action. Actually, sometimes it was even on-ball between Vezenkov and a guard. And then what would happen is somebody like Gül or Feliz would switch on to Vezenkov. And so then what you would have...
Or Campazzo. Or Campazzo,
right?
who is very, very physical for someone who's about 4'2". He's a
exactly,
very physical
right?
guard.
And so what you were looking for, it felt like the only thing they were really looking for was going to Vezenkov in the post almost every offense. But the problem was that they were fronting him, meaning they were playing in front of Vezenkov. So they weren't letting Vezenkov receive the ball in the post. What would then happen is the ball would get swung to the wing and we would look for the pass. It wouldn't be there. And then it would go back to the guard. And now Thomas Walkup is initiating your offense with 11 seconds left. And that happened multiple times, especially down that fourth quarter. So I think what we just need to look for is a more diversified offense to some degree. I think there need to be some set plays run for players like Alec Peters to get open looks and open shots, because today he only gave us 4 points. And remember, Alec Peters is a player that last year was our leading scorer, averaged 15 points a game. And Euroligas definitely likes him, as we heard on the commentary today, right? So he's the kind of player that you need to try and find a little bit more. I also think, a big part of how you break that defense that they were playing, because what they were essentially doing is they were playing super aggressive half-court defense and they were forcing turnovers. The reason they were able to get into that defense is because we weren't getting stops on the other end, or even if we weren't running in transition enough. So what we need to do is we need to be more aggressive defensively to get more stops that lead into scores. And the way we do that is we have players like Sabin Lee and McKissic on the floor that can push the ball, and Goss even, that can push the ball down court and create an advantage. That way they can't get set into their defense. The game opens up and, we look for more points in transition. I think that's the way that we need to approach it. They obviously probably tried to do some of that today, but it felt like, you were kind of getting deja vu to last year when you would start the offense with 12 seconds left with Walkup at the top of the key.
I think it was less than 12 seconds sometimes.
Yeah, you didn't have any other options. So I just think, I think today was one of those games. I think they had a huge desire to win. They got on a run early, and then we were playing catch up the entire game. So I think we'll be fine next game. It's just a matter of certain players getting going and putting more points on the board than they did, including players like Peters and McKissic.
This is what I wanted to say. With those players in mind, right? You talked about Peters. Peters last year showed that he can be our starting power forward. If it wasn't for Vezenkov, he would be.
Mm-hmm.
The man is a scoring machine. He fits our system brilliantly, but he doesn't get the minutes he deserves, which is crazy because he's shown that he should be getting his minutes. There's no reason for coach not to trust him after what he's done. He's delivered. He can do it. Now, how in a game that's a tight game and there's a lot of pressure, is Peters going to get these shots? Is Peters going to get these minutes? Because today he didn't. I'm looking at the box score here. Doesn't say the minutes, but it does. 17 minutes. 17 minutes today. And he got 10
Are you sure?
Am I looking at the right game? I am looking at
the right game. I think you're looking at the other game. 12 minutes, 43 seconds, got 3 points.
I am looking at the wrong game. I was thinking to myself, 17 minutes for Peters. That's crazy. Wait. Let me get the right game up. Yeah, I was looking at game 1. Right. Because this is because when I was watching it, I was like, Peters needs to be playing and he's not playing enough. Olympiacos. Yeah. Wow. That's a big difference. 12 minutes instead of 17 and 3 points instead of 10. Holy Christ. Okay. So Peters is one. You mentioned McKissic, who everyone knows is my favorite player, and has just been in bad form the last, I'd say, 2 months, month and a half. Has not been the McKissic that we've known. Today, 10 minutes, 0 points. Nikola, 15 minutes, 2 points. 15 minutes and 2 points it's inexcusable to have that amount. Wow. Mustafa Fall, 0 points in 13 minutes. How do we get these guys to offer something? Like Milutinov, 4 points in 17 minutes. Milutinov was an X factor in the first 2 games. How do we switch that and make sure that because without Fournier on the court today, it seemed like we had less options, which is weird because usually if you have your star players on, then they hog the ball. You think with Vezenkov and Fournier on, the others wouldn't have as much of a chance. But today, Fournier wasn't there, but it was just Williams Goss that stepped up.
Yeah, so I think first of all, on the Peters minutes point, it's hard, right? Because he plays the same position as Vezenkov, and Vezenkov played 34 minutes today. Okay, so all of a sudden, that's only 6 minutes that can go to Peters at his natural position, which means that you would need to play, and Vezenkov should be playing 34 minutes. In fact, he should probably be playing more in a closeout game like this. So that means that, okay, you've got 6 minutes that you can give to Peters today, and then you need to find more minutes from another spot. Usually during the season, Peters would play at the 5 when we had injuries, but guess what? We don't have any injuries at that position anymore. We have Milutinov, Fall, and we have Wright, and also it would be criminal to play Peters in this rotation as a 5 against Tavares, against, Ibaka, against Garuba, against these big players. You can't do that. So then the question becomes, okay, well, Peters, how many minutes can we get Peters at the 3 alongside Vezenkov, playing as a small forward? That kind of depends. It depends on the game. I think, today, the way it worked out with those final rotations, obviously you had to give Williams Goss a lot of minutes because he went off in the first half. So then really you're left with, 2 positions, really, the 2 and the 3, where you kind of have to give minutes to, when Walkup was playing, because you wanted Walkup to play as a safe pair of hands as well. That was the one. So basically, you needed to share those minutes between Vildoza, Lee, who had a great game, Papanikolaou, McKissic, Peters, Larizaki, who didn't play. There's a lot of players from the 1 to the 3 that could have played, right? So I think what he went for in the fourth quarter was he went for Walkup, Goss, and or Vildoza and Lee together, those three playing for the wonderful
Ioannis, surely in a game where you're struggling on offense, and it's clear everyone said that offense is our biggest problem today, that's what hurt us most of all. Surely you want your best scorer on, even if it's in an unnatural position, even if you have to have him at the 3 and you're sacrificing one of the others that you just mentioned. You're playing Williams, Goss, Walkup, and Peters. You have to find a way to have your best scorer on the court. You just have
but you're sacrificing defense, because that 3 also then has to guard Musa or Hezonja.
Or Hezonja. Yeah, but I mean, it's not like we kept them to 65 points and lost 65, 64. We still conceded 80 points. I know that some of them were at the end, but our defense wasn't exactly a 10 out of 10. Would you not rather sacrifice a tiny bit more on defense and get Peters enough minutes and enough touches on the ball where he's going to get you those 15 points? You sacrifice 5, 6, 7 points on defense, but you've just increased your offense by about 10, 12 points. Because
but are you going to take out Sabin Lee? Are you going to take out Sabin Lee, who had 11 points and 4?
No, but I'm not saying. But Sabin Lee played 17 minutes. I think Vildoza, for example, had a really poor game. I think Vildoza was shite. And after a couple of turnovers, you're like, take him off. Like, I don't. Yeah,
but you need Vildoza on the floor
because minutes.
You need Vildoza on the floor because he's one of very few players that know how to guard Campazzo very well. He did it in the final against Real Madrid. Last year for Panathinaikos, he did that for a few possessions for them, and he's done it for us this year as well. Vildoza is.
But Campazzo wasn't the problem today. Everyone else was.
Because Vildoza played 19 minutes and guarded him.
Is that the reason why? Campazzo had a good game? Is that the reason why you think Campazzo didn't have a good game, because Vildoza guarded him? Do you think? I didn't notice that. I didn't notice that they were playing at the same time. Obviously, I'm just a fan. I'm not the coach. So I don't see things like that. But I don't think that when you have a player like Campazzo not performing, but everyone else seems to be doing really, really well, then surely maybe you sacrifice the player that you've got that you think is going to be defending him and give those minutes to someone else. It's just I'm playing devil's advocate here, because whatever we say, you can never be right? We have too many good players, and there's just not enough spots and not enough minutes for everyone. It's just I get annoyed when our best offensive player isn't on the court for longer than he is, or when he is on the court doesn't get enough touches of the ball. Vezenkov has an incredible game. He had a great game, and he's had a great season, and he's an MVP caliber player for a reason. But sometimes I don't mind that ball going to Peters.
100%, but it's not going to be for Vildoza. Vildoza is a primary ball handler. You've got 3 players that are primary ball handlers on this team that can bring the ball down as point guards. Those are Walkup, Goss, and Vildoza. You've also got those are also the players that are guarding Campazzo on defense and can guard Campazzo on defense, right? So these are the 3 players that you need to have on the court. It's not fair to compare Vildoza to Peters. The player that Peters probably should have taken minutes from today was McKissic. That was somebody who played 11 minutes, missed all of his shots, was a -6 on PIR. Our only player that was a minus on PIR. McKissic can have great games, and I love McKissic, don't get me wrong. But McKissic and Nikola combined played 25 minutes, and they gave you 2 points and I think 3 rebounds total. Right?
I fully agree. Fully agree.
So you take some of those minutes away. Maybe Nikola plays 10 and McKissic plays 5. All of a sudden now you've got 10 extra minutes to give to Peters. He's playing 23 minutes in the game, right? So that's probably what you need to do. That being said, Papanikolaou and McKissic are both, for Bartzokas, a safe pair of hands, right? They know his system inside out. They know exactly what to do, and
their defense is better than Peters's.
Their defense is better than Peters's, exactly. So I think, looking at the game, he wanted to have Walkup in the last 10 minutes. He thought Walkup would be a safe pair of hands. So he had Walkup and Goss in together, and then there was one spot at the 3 that went to Sabin Lee today, because Sabin Lee showed that he, had the energy to put in a good performance.
Lee deserved it. Lee deserved it. But then it's sort of, again, devil's advocate. But is coach too stuck on certain players? Because you're thinking you need score in the last few minutes. Why is Walkup finishing the game when he's just come back from injury? Yes, he's a safe pair of hands. Yes, he's your safest pair of hands, and he's a creator. But Real Madrid's defense is so tight. We're really struggling to create anyways. He's not necessarily a scorer. Sacrifice that player, keep Goss and Sabin Lee as your guards that are performing brilliantly, and have Peters on as well. Have those three with then Sasha and a 5. Again, might not necessarily work, but something different, which we haven't seen.
First of all, the criticism that Bartzokas is overly reliant on a few players. Like, I don't like that, because the fundamental premise of that criticism is that he's necessarily doing something wrong. Let's be clear, what Bartzokas has done over the past 5 years has been exceptional. There was only one year there was only 1 year where we didn't win that we should have won, right? And because we've been to 3 Final Fours, it's like, oh, we never win. We go to so many Final Fours. No. In 2022-23, that was the 1 year where we lost in the final to Real Madrid. Shots fell on their end. They didn't fall for us. Yes, sure. You can blame Bartzokas for that one. Every other loss, we weren't expected to win, especially last year. Last year, it was a massive achievement just to be there, right? So the reason why I think he went with Walkup in this fourth quarter wasn't necessarily because he has an over reliance on him. It's because Goss had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. He gave the ball away on multiple occasions. They were pressuring him up at the top, and he tried to sneak passes in through the middle that led to turnovers and easy fast break buckets for the other team. Goss kind of lost his head in that fourth quarter, which is why he pulled him out with a couple minutes left. He pulled Goss out.
Goss was the one who tried to get those passes through the legs twice and end up being a turnover. But yeah, Goss had a couple of turnovers at the end too.
They both were, but Goss had 4 turnovers today.
Goss had 4 turnovers, yeah.
Goss had one turnover for every assist today. And I think when you look at Walkup and you say, okay, well, I want somebody that has more scoring, sure, but your point guard doesn't necessarily have to be an on-the-ball shot creator. He had 6 assists today. Creation is also finding the man in the right spot. And presumably what he wanted to do was he wanted to get an entry pass into Vezenkov at the post, and he didn't trust anybody else to make that pass over Thomas Walkup, because Thomas Walkup doesn't turn the ball over too much. He plays good defense on the other end. That being said, the problem is you probably don't want him on the free throw line down 4 with a minute left. You probably want anybody else in that position.
Well, apart from Mustafa Fall. Oh, you said.
Well, apart from Mustafa Fall, yes. But ultimately, I don't want to sit here and say that the reason why we lost was were rotations. I don't think that was the main issue. I think we have a tendency to just every time we lose look for answers and point the finger and say it's Bartzokas' fault because of that, or it's this guy's fault because of that. But in basketball, sometimes you lose. Like, the reason we play these series in a game of basketball is because you lose. You're expected to lose. I mean, and if you sweep the other team, that's because you're significantly better than the other team or more experienced or something. Losses happen, and it's important not to make them existential and assume that because this one loss happened, there's some inherent problem in our coaching philosophy that fundamentally needs to change for us to succeed. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think we need to calm down on the alarmism a little bit. Is my general point.
Do you know what? I think that's the perfect way to end this. That philosophy at the end, because as I mentioned before, it's something that we definitely do as Olympiacos fans and Greeks. Sure. So with that in mind, I'm excited for Game 4. I think as you said, I've got faith that we can get this done before we go back to instead of going back to Piraeus. But even if we were to go back to Piraeus next week for Game 5, I think there we are definitely getting it done. I mean, the crowd.
Yeah, we're not losing Game 5.
We're not losing Game 5 at Seth. But yeah, with that in mind, take home point for everyone watching is don't catastrophize everything. Don't become too alarmist. There's not necessarily always a reason that you lose. Sometimes the other team was just better. And Madrid today, to their credit, were brilliant defensively, in my opinion. One of the best defensive performances I've ever seen them, and just unbelievable, really. So yeah, with that in mind, see you later, and we move on Thursday. Let's see how that goes. Peace out.
Thursday.